If you have this idea that Ryan feels insecure about Justin, when you look at the dancing scene, it all looks a little bit different. For some reason, I become convinced that Ryan is the driving force behind all of this drama. I know I'm late. I was always aware that Ryan was probably behind it, but nothing was ever occurring to me in my spirit. But since the case ended and I felt this freedom to speculate more and stop trying to be accurate because we'll never have anything validated, I've just been getting sort of downloads about how this is Ryan's fault. Just because I think Ryan is the problem doesn't mean Blake is not the problem. She's very much the problem. They say that the man is the head and the woman is the neck. Like, she was still the one being an active problem on the set. She was still the one making things difficult, saying things, putting out rumors. She's still the face of this, so she is still very much being held accountable. But I want to talk about the ways I think Ryan is also accountable. I'm Brianna, and I've tried to look at this drama from a balanced perspective. I definitely have a lot of nuance in the way that I look at it or the analysis I come up with, because I think that things are much more complex and much more familiar than we are often seen discussed in the media or on our social medias. It all started when I saw a text from Ryan to Warren Zavala on August 17th, 2024 about the assistant director being fired. It says, and yes, the AD was fired. She wasn't keeping people safe on set. She was negligent in almost every way, and one of the reasons Blake and the other women dealt with so much dark behavior. She was let go before going back to work, and this was almost part of the return to work document, but they hired a new AD. If you watch my video where I analyzed Ryan's text to Colleen Hoover, I talked about how he uses you and B and you and Blake to manipulate Colleen's, basically. The second thing I noticed that he does is he pairs Colleen and Blake. Everything good he says about Blake, he's also saying about Colleen, or if he's saying something good about Colleen, he includes Blake. For instance, he says, you and B made something gorgeous out of ingredients you didn't ask for. Mainly, I'm just incredibly proud and inspired by you and B. So he's, to me, making them seem one and the same, so that she associates this goodness in her or this talent in her with Blake, or the talent and goodness in Blake with herself. In this case, I think he just means Blake, but he's adding other women because he doesn't want Warren, for whatever reason, to know that these feelings are just about Blake. The other thing that set me off was safe. A lot of times people will use safe to like make physical the threat that they feel psychologically. So that's where my mind is. Then I went to the PGA letter to see what Blake says, which is interesting. Blake says, I unfortunately was responsible for the firing of our first AD, Julie, as we were not making our days for the first many weeks, and I had the 20 years of experience to see that the days were not boarded well enough from the get-go, and her experience was not appropriate for the film we were making. Why would that be down to Blake to decide that? At any rate, one or both of them is lying. For some reason, I think that Ryan's reason was more close to being true. Not that there was dark behavior, but the feeling that he's trying to mask, I feel, is probably the main reason. And before we get too far in this video and people click off, I just want to say I do not think Blake is sophisticated enough to have created this huge thing. I don't think it was her. Obviously she wanted to, she did it all, but I don't think she could have driven it by herself. She just is not that savvy. So we have that. This thing, that was the first thing that was making me look at Ryan in a weird way. So now I have this whole other list of different things that I think are weird. When I left the PGA letter, I went over to the 17 30-point return to work list. And there are a lot of interesting things on it, but the main thing I'm gonna say is this reads like a list of rules a jealous boyfriend would make for his girlfriend, for people interacting with his girlfriend. And I can't believe that we've ever taken this any other way, because it's exactly what it sounds like. And I hope that that's what they thought when Wayfair was looking at this. Some of the things that really seem obvious: no personal physical touching of or sexual comments by Mr. Baldoni, Mr. Heath will be tolerated. No more improvising of kissing. Blake Lively to have representative on set at all times during scenes involving nudity. All actors participating with Blake Lively in intimate scenes involving her being in any state of nudity must be working actors and not friends. All of this is about, to me, Ryan's comfort. And I don't feel like it's about Blake's comfort, because she apparently doesn't complain about any of these things in her texts. I think because it wasn't her that had an issue with it. I think it was Ryan. But because Ryan couldn't deal with the fact that this feeling in him is coming from a place of insecurity, he projected it as SH, and that's how we got here. I just don't think somebody can write. I don't think she wrote this. She came up with this, but I think that these instances, which some of these would have been limited, are about the actual situations on the set as opposed to the issue he took with different things that happened. Some of the stuff on there is fine, but for the most part, I just think that he sounds like a jealous boyfriend. Now, let's just talk about how Ryan perceived Justin. I think that it seemed like Blake and Justin were having a genuine connection at the start, and I can imagine Ryan didn't like that very much. There is a text of, I think Blake is repeating what Ryan said, and she said he's always asking, what's this guy hiding from? I want to say that after reading a little bit of Justin Baldoni's book for boys called Boys Will Be Human, I get the sense that Justin's dad was misogynistic, and he taught Justin to be misogynistic. And when Justin became a young man, he recognized that he had very toxic views of women and masculinity, and to counter that, he started going hard for feminism because he wants to be the opposite. And sometimes we try so hard, we can seem disingenuous or performative, but just because someone is performative or being fake doesn't mean they're being nefarious. But I don't think that Ryan really was able to hold space for there to be anything other than malicious intent in Justin's character. But I think that was making him very uncomfortable to see the relationship with Blake, uncomfortable to see this person at all, because he's very different from who Ryan is. I also saw this clip of Ryan doing an interview about Deadpool and Nice Pool, and he talks about the envy that Deadpool had for Nice Pool.
Yeah, I loved killing Nice Pool, because Nice Pool's, you know, as much as he projected that he was wonderful, he was a terrible human being. You know, and I like that Deadpool gets to lean into that anti-hero thing and like gets to lean into his like childlike desires. I want that. You know, be it Nice Pool's guns, his gold-plated guns, or his you know, dog that like really should be with Wade because the dog and Wade look the same. You know, I like sort of acting out envy.
And I'm like, why isn't this a headline? Because he obviously is Deadpool and Justin is Nice Pool. So any envy that Deadpool felt for Nice Pool is the envy that Ryan felt for Justin, which would make him feel insecure. If you have this idea that Ryan feels insecure about Justin and he's yelled at Blake about it and he has an issue with Justin as a person, when you look at the dancing scene, it all looks a little bit different. You can see that the guarding that Blake is doing and the making it clear that she doesn't want to kiss makes sense if she's doing it so that when Ryan watches the dailies, he's not angry at her for being too close and too friendly, or he doesn't get upset at seeing something like Justin kissing her and they're in this very intimate, prolonged contact. I think she knows that that would have really upset him. I also think that the conversation about their relationships makes more sense. She's acting like Justin's relationship with Emily is like just so weird and out there, and what she has with Ryan is so great. We didn't know how to take that before, but it makes sense if she's trying to ensure that her husband sees that what Justin and Emily have is not something she wants. And she even goes as far as to make Justin say that her and Ryan are more than cute, because she knows how Ryan will feel about Justin Baldoni calling his relationship cute. Doesn't that make more sense? Fast forwarding a whole year, I think Ryan unfollowed Justin because they were finally done with the whole thing and he no longer had to pretend that he was cool with Justin. He probably even wanted to be petty because he had a lot of stress from this man being in his wife's life, pointing out, emphasizing his flaws, either to his wife or in his own head, right? So he unfollowed Justin because he couldn't handle it anymore. Then we've got him making other people unfollow him so that he doesn't seem like the one with an issue, right? I also think Ryan started the rumors about Justin. Obviously Blake started them, but I think Ryan was the one like, yeah, tell him, because he wanted to take Justin down. He wanted people to feel as uncomfortable with Justin as he did, even though it would be for different reasons. I also think that Ryan was the one who wanted Justin banned from the premiere because he didn't want to share the red carpet with Justin. We see that Ryan made that whole thing, the promo about him. He had his mom there and Hugh Jackman. How would he have shared that with Justin? So I think that's one of the reasons he didn't want him there. Secondly, he didn't want to have to pretend in this place that was supposed to be for him for some reason. Third, I think he really didn't want them doing promo together because he didn't want another Lady Gaga, Bradley Cooper situation where everybody's like, are they in a relationship? Like, what's going on here? There's so much chemistry, it's crazy. Remember when A Star Was Born came out and we were like, are they in love? He didn't want that. He didn't want any speculation of that. I think he also didn't want them put in an interview together so that Justin could say things that made him sound even more compelling. Justin said very gracious things about Blake even without her there, but imagine if she were there, the types of things he would have said about her, or the types of things they would have discussed in general. Or he didn't want Justin making Blake look bad because she cannot speak on the same level or from the same place as Justin. Getting into the main thing, when we saw that Sigrid Macaulay came out and said this case has always been about SH, and then she said this case was always about retaliation, I think because there were essentially two separate cases. The SH was all of the things that Ryan wanted to take Justin down for. The SH were all of the things that made Ryan feel so insecure. So when that got wiped out, I think Blake genuinely did just care about the retaliation because she wasn't experiencing SH. That's why she didn't apparently text anyone about it. She said that she's experienced worse in her deposition because it wasn't about that for her. It was always about retaliation. I think that's why he essentially went ghost after those claims were dismissed, because he felt like he lost. And at that point, he would have to reconcile the fact that he would not be validated. And the story he was telling himself that the reason his wife was experiencing these things was because someone was being bad. Someone was misbehaving, rather than because the call was coming from inside the house and those feelings were originating from a deficiency within himself. I think that's why we didn't see him with Blake or making a statement on Blake's behalf after that, not even wanting to use the poor girl's name in his post, because he was still trying to manage his emotions. So those are my thoughts about why Ryan's the problem. Let me know what you think and what you have to add. I know that this is not new, but this is just how I'm seeing it now. My lens has totally changed, and I'm so curious to hear what you think. I'll see you in the next video.